What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, thankfully, another 3 points closer to your qualification. Honestly, I still think we should be pushing to stay in third because there's no reason why we shouldn't be in third after how well we did this season starting off, and how much we've dropped off has been embarrassing, really. So, yes, there's the stuff going on with the sale of the club and all of that, but I mean, still, we've got the players. We should just go out there, do our jobs. And if not for the fact that Tuchel's started some random people that should not be starting, I feel like there are some matches that we should have easily won. And we were easily winning some of them. And then the subs he makes just doesn't change anything, or he doesn't make subs, and then we lose them. So, yeah, there's just been a lot of issues that have cost us points over the past few weeks. And especially now, considering the whole sale of the club thing looks like it's getting ready to go through, it feels like it's all wrapping up. I feel like that pressure, if they were feeling, because honestly, I don't think I think I said this in a past review, but I don't really think that I was ever really worried about the club, because I knew there are enough fans out there, there are enough people out there. Somebody was going to buy the club. Somebody was going to see the potential to make money in this club. They were going to come in, and yes, there's the worry that you're going to get some owners that are just going to come in, throw a bunch of money without actually thinking about what to do with the club, trying to actually grow it. But I mean, Chelsea is such a big name property. We were going to be fine. So I was never really worried. Maybe the players were, but really, just looking at the performance today, we should be okay. We should not be worrying about Arsenal overtaking us for third, or even slightly worried about Tottenham overtaking us for fourth, because we should have easily gotten our job done based on our performance today. Now, Leeds is not in good run of form at all, and they made it a lot easier today with stupid challenge from Dan James. But still, the fact that we're even worried about Arsenal is a little frustrating for me. So if we don't finish in third, I will be frustrated with this season overall, and I'll be having a lot of questions about what's going to change for next year. Because I thought we were going to see some improvements when Tuchel had the summer transfer window to make some changes, to bring in some players that were going to suit his style more. And so we went through the summer transfer window. We didn't really do a whole lot, and now here we are struggling to stay in fourth again, or stay in the top four again. And for me, that's exactly where we were before Tuchel came in. So what has he done to change us? For me, not much. Like, he's made us better in tournaments because we can win those one-off matches. But as far as winning the league, we're no closer to winning the league under Tuchel than we were when he first took over. So, yeah, I know a lot of people have been defending him. I'm somebody I just don't see, aside from, again, we've managed some games well. We've managed to win those tournament matches. But I just look at our team as a whole, and there's still so many gaps. There's still so many issues. And Tuchel's a coach. I mean, I've obviously had my issues with him. Some of his decisions just don't make a lick of sense. There are some games when he puts on certain players, and when he doesn't start players. I mean, watching Chalobah today, again, how can you not start him? I don't get it. So, yeah, I don't know. I have my opinions of him. He still has yet to truly prove me wrong in the long run, because he's proved me wrong some games and shown what his capabilities are as a manager. But for a lot of matches, there have been moments where I don't think he knows what he's doing half the time. I think he has this idea of what he's doing, or there's something going on behind the scenes that some players upset him, and even though he's fantastic on the field, the player's not doing what he wants him to do, either in training, or maybe he said something that upset him. I don't know. But I look at Ziyech and I look at Chalobah and I look at what they bring whenever they play, and they don't play a whole lot, honestly. But when they do, they bring some stuff. They bring some. I mean, Chalobah brings some solid defensive work. Ziyech brings this creativity that not anybody else at our club has, as far as I can tell. He's just a different type of player, and he can unlock some defenses with one ball. And yet we're not utilizing it. And granted, we don't tend to use that a whole lot, but I feel like that's because he's not playing. I feel like if he were on the field, we'd be utilizing that capability and that one ball in behind, or that one ball across, or something along those lines, that the team is sitting in, they're packing it in, and we just pick them apart with that one great ball from Ziyech, and boom, we're in. But for the most part, where we get our goals is we have to rely on a lot of good runs. We have to rely on runs opening up space. That's why, in my opinion, Werner, very underrated asset. That's what we tend to do to beat teams if we do. So yeah, I don't know. I know that was kind of a more talking about the end of the season, but it's just something, especially watching today, I'm thinking, God, we should not be worried about this third place position at all. If anything, we should be causing, if Liverpool or Man City slip up in a game, we should be causing them to worry because we're just like right there up underneath them. Maybe a few points back because we did have a difficult winter season and we did lose two of our key players in Chilwell and James. However, we should still be within that. If they slip up for a couple matches, we're right there. We can challenge them. Now, granted, I don't think they're going to anyway. I don't think we would have challenged for the title. But the fact that we're not even close to being in the shout is frustrating. And the fact that we've let Arsenal and Tottenham consider themselves having a chance of getting into the top four over us, that's frustrating as well. So, but anyways, talking about the match itself, I mean, overall, again, it was a pretty easy match for us. Leeds have not been in a good run of form. Ayling, stupid challenge against Arsenal, so he was out. And he's probably, I wouldn't say he's their best player, but he's one of the more, I'm trying to think of a good example player. He's kind of like what Saint Maximin is for Newcastle. Like, he's just that player that he's not the greatest player out there, but he's probably one of the more dangerous ones. Like, he's got a lot of energy. He works back hard. He gets up down that line and, can put in a couple dangerous crosses. He's had a couple of goals throughout the season, but he's just a very energetic player. And most of the time I watch him, he's given all that he's got. I don't really like his attitude sometimes, but as far as his work rate, typically he puts in a good shift. So him getting sent off against Arsenal and, stupid challenge, out for a few games, so he's not available today against us. And then again, Dan James, I mean, just what a reckless tackle. And the fact that Kovacic may be out for the rest of the season because of that is very frustrating because it was ugly. When I first saw it live, my first thought was that looked rough. And then you watch the replay, and yeah, it was an ugly challenge, and he deserved the red, and he deserves the 3-match ban that's coming. So I don't know if they give more than 3-match bans, but if they give up to 5 for a really bad challenge, that might be talked about for being a little bit longer than the typical 3-match ban for a straight red. But yeah, so our task was very simple today. We just had to at least be defensively solid, and they're not defensively solid. I think one of the commentators, I'm pretty sure they said that they've given up the most goals this season, which very surprising when you consider Norwich is also in the league, and we put 7 past them in the first game and 3 past them, I think, in the second. But yeah, I mean, Leeds are not a defensively solid team, and again, you take out their solid right back, they're going to be a little bit more open. So yeah, I'm glad that we put them to bed, and I'm glad that we did get that third goal because it was kind of, I don't know, there was just that feeling of, well, we were comfortable 2-0 against Wolves, and then we gave up that goal, and suddenly we were on the back foot, and it was that nervousness, and you're waiting for the second goal to go in. So the fact that not only did we not let them get a goal, but also we put that third one in to sort of put any of those doubts to bed. Maybe a little later than I would have liked, but it made me happy to see, okay, we did our job, we put them to bed, we didn't just eke out the result today. We actually played well, and we put him to the sword. Good to see. As far as Tuchel's decisions with starting lineup subs, I guess Christensen is just so you give Silva a break so he can be fully fit for the Liverpool match, I suppose, because there's no other reason why you would start Christensen over Silva, because Silva's like a million times better than Christensen. Good to see Chalobah gets to start, possibly to give Azpilicueta a rest, or possibly because Azpilicueta has not been in the best run of form recently. I will say it was surprising to see Alonso because there was talk of a bust-up, and he got subbed at halftime in the last match, so I thought there might be some issues there, and we've seen, apparently with some of the other players he tends to have issues with. We don't see him for a while, we don't see him start for a while, but Alonso starts again today, so I don't really know what our options are over there if we don't go with Alonso. Like, I know Saul and Sarr have both played over there, but I don't know what our actual good options are if we don't play Alonso. The only thing I can think of is maybe James or Azpilicueta can play on the left. And if one of them plays over there on the left and the other one plays on the right, or Loftus-Cheek is done okay at right wing back, but not fantastic. But he can play the position if we need him to. So if James has to slide over to the left, we can use Loftus-Cheek there. But I think there are players you can play on that left side that are going to give you something more than Sarr and Saul. So I know positionally, without having to move all these pieces around, I know Sarr and Saul are the players you would put over there because they can play left wing back. But if we want to put good players out there, there are other options other than Sarr and Saul that I hope he turns to, and I hope he thinks about that if he decides not to play Alonso in the weekend. And then the front three, Mount comes in for Werner, which a lot of people were talking about, oh, he's awful, he needs to go after the Wolves game. I don't know. I just feel like, again, people are so critical of him. And it's really shocking, especially because of how much people, and maybe this is just articles sensationalizing, a small group of people, making it seem like, oh, all these people are hating on Werner, and all these people, they want to see more of Lukaku. But I don't know, it's very weird how much work Werner puts in throughout the season. And yes, he has a bad game. He has bad touches. He had a bad, run of form in front of the goal in the last match. And suddenly now he's the worst player we have. First of all, we still have Sarr, Saul, and Barkley all at the club, so not even close to being the worst player we have. But I just don't understand why people don't see what good qualities he brings. And especially, I mean, you see how he's working off of Lukaku as well in the last match. And there's just the movement that he has and the runs that he makes so underappreciated. But Mount comes in and he can do the same thing. He can make those great runs off of Lukaku. He can open up spaces for players with how much he works, and he puts a lot of pressure on their defense as well. So he's also a good option to have instead of Werner. Pulisic keeps his place even though he was kind of against Wolves, not very effective. And Lukaku, of course, after scoring the 2 goals against Wolves, is going to keep his place. So yeah, as far as all of the starting lineup is concerned, it was perfectly fine. The subs, Loftus-Cheek had to come on for Kovacic, which, I mean, is understandable. Is basically the only other option we had at midfield. And then Ziyech comes on for Pulisic, and Azpilicueta came on for James. For James, I'm assuming that's going to be a rest him for the weekend sub. So, of course, Azpilicueta would be the natural replacement there. Ziyech for Pulisic, I don't really know what the thinking was behind that. I'd like the sub, but I just wonder what that thought process was instead of Havertz or Werner. Maybe just giving him some time to see what he can do. But I like the fact that he at least turned to Ziyech. I wish he would turn to him more often because I think he does provide us something different in moments where we need somebody to unlock the defense. But yeah, I thought all of the subs today were either necessary or they made sense to me. I did have questions on what the thinking was behind the Ziyech for Pulisic one, just because I wonder I always wonder what's going through Tuchel's mind, even when he makes good decisions, because most of the time I wonder what he's thinking when he makes bad. But as far as individuals were concerned today, Mendy come under a lot of flack recently for some reason. I've seen a lot of people, we need to play Kepa now. Kepa deserves to start. From a keeper coach, from somebody who has coached keepers for more than a couple years, we don't need Kepa. The only thing that he provided was he seemed to be able to read penalties decently well. And even then, he wasn't saving a whole lot, but he was saving a couple. So, okay, you saved a couple. That's perfectly fine. You're saving a couple penalties, or you're saving at least one penalty per round of penalties you face. Okay, cool. So that's what you can provide us. And then he goes and misses all 11, even guessing right on some of them, but not saving them because he's that bad of a keeper. And I'm just like, okay, so we don't need him. If he's not even going to be a good shot stopper for the penalties, why do we need him? He doesn't move his feet. He's not commanding in the air. Sometimes his hands aren't even that great. But I don't know. I'm shocked that so many people seem to forget how bad Kepa is just because Mendy's had a few games where he's not been as influential, or he's not had some game-changing saves. Most of the saves are not saves he would have made. Like, yes, he's had a couple issues. He's had a couple errors here and there in the past run of 6 or 7 games. He's had a couple issues. I'll grant you that. he still does so much more, and he still provides so much more comfort back there than Kepa could ever do. So when you're asking me who do I want to start in goal, it's always going to be Mendy. Even if he's in a slightly bad run of form, it's not like bringing in Kepa is going to be, a game changer. It's going to be just as bad as Mendy in a bad run of form. I guarantee it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sick of hearing people talk about how Kepa needs to get some starts in now that Mendy's not playing that well. Because you don't know. You obviously don't understand how that works, how keeping position works. Because if you did and you watched Kepa, you would know he's awful. He had one problem when he came to Chelsea, and it's been the same problem ever since then. And it's a very easy problem to work and improve on. It's a bad habit that you got to break, and it is move your feet. And he still doesn't do it 3 or 4 years later. So if he hasn't learned it, if he hasn't figured it out yet, especially working with a top class keeper like Cech, there's not going to be, I don't know if Cech actually works with the keepers, but I mean, Cech should be able to go to the keeper coach and say, hey, here's the problem. This is what we need to work on. The keeper coach, I mean, if you're coaching at a high-level club like Chelsea, you should know what the problem is, and you should be working it out of his game. So if it's not improving, either the coaching at the club is not good enough, or he doesn't work hard enough to work that out of his game. Because moving your feet is an issue that you can break. You can break that habit of not moving your feet. So anyways, sorry I went on a little bit of a rant there, but I really need to stay off social media because I'm probably seeing more just the idiots of social media that are very reactionary and like, oh god, I can't believe Mendy didn't make that save, get him out. Just like, you guys are idiots. And here I am saying I want Tuchel out because after a year we've not seen improvement. Granted, I mean there's more to it than that, but it also is a little reactionary. I see the irony. Don't worry. Chalobah, again, another good solid game. Few mistakes here and there. I get the fact that he's not great with his feet. And we do keep a lot of possession in the back. But defensively, he's such a good defender. He's solid. He makes good challenges. Like, occasionally he'll get pulled out of position a little bit. But you put him back there with a defender like Silva, who's going to organize him and make sure he stays in position. I mean, he's going to be a great defender. So I hope we don't end up losing him because we already lost few other solid defenders because Tuchel let him go. So I don't know. I'm frustrated with Tuchel for not giving Chalobah more of a chance because of how much good that he's done this season and how solid he's been all around. I'm frustrated at this point for Chalobah, and I hope that we give him more time before he decides, you know what, I'm done here. I'm tired of not getting started, even though I tend to play well. Christensen in the midfield, or in the middle of the center back three. I mean, just another Christensen performance. Sometimes got sucked out of position, sometimes didn't go in hard enough to a challenge, sometimes made some bad decisions to not pressure a player, and I don't know. He's all over the place. Like, he wasn't terrible today, but he also wasn't put under that much pressure. But the few times he was, there are just moments where you can see the gaps in his game. I don't see him being useful for us anymore. We need to go get another defender like Silva that can play in the middle and read the game, because right now Silva's the only truly good option we have because Christensen just doesn't cut it. And then Rudiger on the left side. Still some gaps, and ever since he's come back after the announcement that he was leaving at the end of the season, he's just not been the same player. And whether that's because his head is already out the door or that's honestly the only thing I can think of, because since that moment, there's been a lot more of him just doing some weird stuff, either on the ball or defensively, going into challenges he doesn't need to go into. It's just started really showing itself in his game. So I hope he can improve that, especially with the FA Cup this weekend. I hope he wants to go out on a strong note so he brings his A game and focuses for this match against Liverpool. Because if he plays like he has been the past few games, it's going to be embarrassing. Like, he's going to get probably sent off for couple stupid challenges, but we'll see what happens. In the midfield, Jorginho and Kovacic. Jorginho was okay today. Probably one of his better matches, but that's still, Jorginho good is still not really comparison, to everybody else at the team. But yeah, I mean, he's okay at times. He has these games where he'll keep possession well, he'll knock it around well. He doesn't really do anything clever or creative with it, but at least he can keep possession decently well. And in a game like this where Leeds are looking to just get that little foothold, he typically does a good job of finding those passes around the back that breaks down their press at times. Now, if he himself is constantly under pressure and they're focusing on making sure whenever he gets the ball, he doesn't have any time to play with it. Most of the time, that's when he struggles. But today, it seemed like there was more of a disconnected press where it was like step to the ball, pass, step to the ball, pass, step to the ball. And in those type of presses, I feel like Jorginho is really useful. So it was a game for him, and I thought he did that part of the game really well. Kovacic, for the little bit he was on the field, did okay. Looked a bit more solid. Still have those moments where it feels like he's not really. I don't know. It feels like he's sort of slowing down a little bit. He's slowing himself down, which at times that can be okay. You're slowing him down to suck him in, and then you're gonna go. But it feels like there are times when he does that, and then he doesn't really go. He just sort of cuts it back, but still too slow. And now the player's right back on him again. So I just feel like there are too many moments like that, and one led to the goal against Wolves. So yeah, I don't know. He still has a lot of ability and still has a lot of stuff in his game that makes him useful, but that part of his game has started creeping in a little bit recently. I don't know why that is. Wingback wise, James today a little bit more effective, and that's been my problem with him recently. Is that gets a lot of time on the ball, gets a lot of space out wide, but not really the cross or the finishing that we've seen. Today it was a little bit better, still not quite finding that final pass at times, but he did send in better crosses today. The crosses were finding their target more than we've seen in the past few matches. So if he can continue to find that form, it'll definitely help us, with the last few games of the season, because we need to find some more goals considering how leaky our defense has been. And Alonso, I thought was pretty good, pretty solid today. Nothing too spectacular from him, but he did his job fine out on the left side and provided some decent service. Did okay defensively, didn't get caught out. I think he got caught out maybe once, but he did well to track back. So defensively is where he struggles the most, and I thought today he was solid enough. Front three, Mount today probably man of the match for me, just because of how mobile he was. He was all over the place. He was pressuring the defenders. He's trying to get on the ball. He's trying to make things happen. I mean, just so much about his game is work. He's working hard. He's trying to make things happen for the team, and it's just so rare to get a player like that. To get a player that wants to not only score, but you could see he wants everybody around him to get on the ball and improve their game. So, yeah, I really like having Mount on the team whenever he's in this run of form. And, I mean, I think part of that is he did get finally a bit of rest. Because, like I said before, he was in a good run of form. He had some good games, and then he played several matches back-to-back, 2-3 days apart. And you could tell it was starting to slow down a little bit. His production in the final third was starting to slow down a little bit. And then he gets a week and a half of rest, and suddenly now he scores a goal. So I do think that does help a bit. Now, granted, I would have liked to see him against Wolves because I think he would have helped us more than Sarr and Saul. But I'm glad that he now looks a bit more fresh and a bit more ready for the game against Liverpool on the weekend. Pulisic, a little bit more effective today than he was against Wolves, just more effective in his runs into the box and trying to have that interconnected play. Still has those mistakes where his pass is a little too long, but today it looked better. It looked like he was improving, and I still think there are better options in the team than him. I think Havertz and Werner still do provide a little bit more than he does, but I'm glad to see he's coming along pretty well. But I still feel like of the if you look at the six that are kind of making up that front three right now, between Werner, Lukaku, Havertz, Mount, Pulisic, Ziyech, of those six, Pulisic is the one that I'm still just kind of like, if he went, wouldn't be the end of the world because we have plenty of other options up there. Especially with Gallagher coming back, he could easily slot in as well, and Broja. So, yeah, I see a lot of these options, and I think Pulisic, right now at least, he could still step it up. He could still find that form that he showed at times, but at the moment he's not really giving us enough to say he's necessary. He is a need in that front three. And finally, Lukaku. And, I've had my issues with him, and I still think there are problems and holes in his game that he needs to be working on, especially if he wants to be a quality striker that can make it in the Premier League. But today was a bit more what I want to see out of him. He's making good runs. They're not just straight line behind the defender and then that's it, he's done. He's actually weaving in and out a little bit. He's checking too. He's getting on the ball and trying to make play happen, not just standing up top and waiting for them to kick it to him. There's just more to his game today, and so I'm glad. I am glad that he's at least fighting to stay here a little bit, because it really did feel like for a while, especially after the whole interview came out about what he was saying about Inter and preferred being there, all of that, and then you play in some of the matches and you're not really showing us why you want to stay. You're not showing that you want to fight for this position. You just kind of go out there and stand around, you make a run, and then you get upset when they don't send it to you even though you were marked by two guys. That was getting frustrating for me. It was getting frustrating to watch because it was all the same. And then the past two matches, a little bit better. He does get 2 goals in the last match. He gets 1 in this. But it's outside of that, outside of the goals, he is showing a bit more desire to work with the people around him, to be a part of the team, instead of just what, for some reason, everybody's saying is, oh no, the team needs to change to suit him more. That makes no sense. This is a team sport. You don't change your team and your tactics and your style to fit one player. He should be adapting his game to fit more into how we play, which is everybody works off of each other. There's good ball movement. There's good movement off the ball. He can do it. We saw him do it earlier this season. Like, he was showing he was making those good runs and then cutting inside or dropping in, opening up some space for somebody else to make a run. There's more to his game than what he showed for a majority of the season. So if he can show that, if he can bring that, then yes, I'd love to keep him. But if these two matches are just a flash in the pan, and then, if he plays the final 3 matches and he doesn't do anything that we expect for him, then yeah, I don't really mind if he leaves, because there are better options. Honestly, again, I saw more out of Broja watching him play for Southampton against Man City in those 2 games. Honestly, in the second match, because that was the more recent one, in that match, watching Broja, he didn't even score, I don't think, but he was more effective and more dangerous to that Man City back line than Lukaku was over the 2 matches that he played. So that shows you Broja is willing to put in the work. He's willing to bust it and put pressure on the back line and work for a team. And Lukaku at times has shown he's not willing to do it. So unless he can keep that consistency and keep doing it well, yeah, I could see him leaving this summer. But we'll see what happens. Again, he has 3 more matches. I'm sure he'll play again on the weekend just because he played pretty well today, got himself a goal. But it's got to be, especially going up against Liverpool, he's got to be at the top of his game. He's got to show why he deserves to stay. And if he really wants to stay, hopefully he will. But we'll see what happens. Sub-wise, Loftus-Cheek came in pretty early on. Was okay. Didn't really do anything spectacular, but just came out and played his typical game. Got on the ball pretty well, rode some challenges. Defensively, would have liked to see him maybe doing a bit more to keep Leeds from getting to our back line, because it did feel like our back 3 were having to make some a little bit more tackles than I would have liked to see. I would have preferred to see the midfield doing its job a bit better. But, yeah, on the ball, I thought he was perfectly fine. Still want to see a bit more of the clinical nature in the final third, just getting that ball to the player he wants to slip in, because still at times feel like he doesn't find that pass very often. And then Ziyech and Azpilicueta came on. They came on, I feel like it was fairly late. Honestly, don't remember now what time they came on, but yeah, they came on kind of fresh legs, probably given rest to James and Pulisic. Probably 2 players we'll see this weekend, more than likely. Yeah, they did okay. Azpilicueta's had a rough run of games recently, and good to see him get out there and just get some solid touches. Didn't really make any big mistakes today. And then Ziyech, got himself, I think he got himself an assist for Lukaku's goal, maybe. I can't remember now. But I know he had a pretty good chance late on. Ball slipped across to him. He tried to curl it back post like he did against, was that Tottenham? I think it might have been. So he's had some fantastic goals. And he's got that in his locker. And again, he's a player that I don't think has been utilized enough for the quality that he has. So would really like to see more of him. But anyways, with all that being said, 3 more games, FA Cup match this weekend. I want to see us finish well. We've had a lot of issues off the pitch. I feel like Tuchel's been having some stupid issues this season. Just something about his brain turns off in some matches. So I'd like to see him go into these final few matches and show what he can do as a manager to get us over the line. Not just limping, but really strong finish to the season to where Arsenal says, well, we don't even have a chance to finish third anymore. So we'll see what happens, but that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the match today? I don't know why I said these. What were your thoughts on the match today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.